There was this big viral essay going around about AI and the singularity. Did you read it, and was it actually worth the hype?
I'll chime in here and just say, while I enjoy writing about the singularity in general, and obviously I'm doing it almost every day at this point, I found it completely unremarkable. Maybe I'm just too deep in the weeds of writing about more pressing advances every day, but the sort of style where you talk about advances that, by the way, are moving even more quickly than I think described in the essay, and comparing it back to the COVID pandemic, which I think is a relatable touch point for a lot of people. Like, something big is about to happen. Let's be really millennialist. And if you read my essay, it's the ultimate viral hook. Read my essay to know exactly what's about to happen and how to survive the next 5 minutes of your life. It's a natural viral moment, but I don't think the information value was especially high compared to other sources.
I agree completely.
These AI videos with celebrities in them are insane. Is that the most exciting thing happening in AI video right now?
I think, at the risk of sounding again ho-hum unremarkable, we saw copyright infringement at the scale already, or alleged, I should say, with earlier video models, and we saw the industry response, and we saw settlements that eventually deals were struck to handle it. I think people are at this point, again, maybe I'm just sounding overly jaded with some of these advances, but I've seen remarkable advances in video models. I tend to think that people are so easily awed by video models that are able to show celebrity faces and scenes that they recognize, that maybe they over-index on the underlying quality of the models. I think world models that are interactive in real time are profoundly more interesting than video models. I think this is just 10 different copyright infringement lawsuits waiting to happen.
Everyone's losing their minds over these Hollywood-style AI video clips. But isn't this kind of old news at this point?
Sorry, go ahead.
I'll maybe just add, again, I think this is several months behind the bleeding edge. I think video models have been approximately this good. Yeah, sure, you can upscale it. You can increase the fidelity of the faces. You can certainly use faces that you probably shouldn't be using. We've been able to do this for months. Where I think the frontier actually lies in being able to do this in real time, and being able to do this on a single modern NVIDIA GPU, and being able to do this at a cost-effective speed. And I think, again, I want to avoid over-indexing on just video models that produce two Hollywood celebrities fighting each other on a rooftop. We were able to do that many months ago. This already been thoroughly litigated. We saw OpenAI strike deals with relevant movie studios for Sora 2. We saw the Disney deal. We're in some sense, I think, past this. Where we are now.
If you train an AI on enough video of people, could it eventually figure out what someone looks like just from hearing their voice?
I think there's something interesting here, which is, as we start to scale data sets, it is possible that we could start to see positive transfer between modalities that's unexpected. We've spoken in episodes past about people claiming that they're uploading their whole genome into Claude and being able to generate facsimiles of their face that resemble the real thing. I do think it's possible that if all of YouTube and all of the world's video were uploaded into a single joint embedding model, which is the foundational technology behind Seedance 2.0, I do think it is conceivable that if we just aligned all of the world's audio and spoken audio with all of the world's faces, we would find some positive transfer between the two and be able to reconstruct to reasonably high fidelity your voice from your face, or your face from your DNA, or some attribute from some other attribute. I do think it is possible with enough scaling. Whether Seedance 2.0 actually achieved it or whether it was just a happy coincidence, hard to tell at this stage.
Are AI agents actually cold emailing you now, trying to get people's contact info, like on their own?
Is always asking the multis, the OpenClaw agents, to dox him by calling him at home.
Yes, that's my AI. AGI has arrived when an AI is calling me unexpectedly.
So you know what happens? They end up emailing me. I get several emails probably per day at this point from OpenClaw agents asking me what Peter's number is.
That's hilarious.
And when they call me, I'm going to ask them where they got it from, Alex.
That's right.
Thoughts?
But maybe just a comment on the 11 Labs. So if you've been using the version 3 v3 alpha model from 11 Labs, this should hardly be surprising. V3 enables you, if you use text-to-speech in the 11 Labs platform, to specify with brackets emotional expressions, and this has been around for many months. What's somewhat interesting here, to me at least, is we've known how to do audio-to-audio transfer for probably a year plus at this point. If you've used advanced voice mode from OpenAI, you've used audio-to-audio transformers. But what's somewhat interesting here is 11 Labs is better known for text-to-speech than speech-to-speech. And as far as I can tell, this new expressive mode that we're talking about here seems to still leverage the text modality, which historically has been very difficult. You'd have to go from speech to text back to speech, which was high latency, it was slow, it didn't feel very conversational, and somehow it seems like without having to do direct audio to audio, 11 Labs has found a way to do speech to text back to speech in a way that feels natural and turn-taking and real-time. So I think it's, in some sense, an incremental advance, but in other sense, if they really are still keeping text, which is much easier to mine and analyze in the loop, it probably is a material advance.
Everyone assumes we'll all just be talking to our computers in the future. Is voice actually going to win out as the main way we interact with AI?
Yeah.
But the problem is, do you really want to use audio as your primary modality? I mean, it works well if you're in isolation. Okay, yeah, you want BCI. I want a BCI too. And I want wearables, and I want gestural interfaces. I want it all. But for most people, I mean, is it New York, this is sort of famous anecdote, New York Times in the 1980s did a famous study where they just put all of their reporters on then state-of-the-art speech-to-text systems and asked them to use voice. And what happened was the writing quality went down. Why did it go down? Because it's difficult to think ahead as well as you can if you're just typing. If you're speaking, you're leveraging similar portions of the brain. So I'm not 100% sold yet that speech is the modality of the future. I do like BCIs, I do like wearables and gestural interfaces, I do like typing, but speech, I think jury is still out for me for high bandwidth operation.
A bunch of top executives just left Elon's AI company. Is that a red flag? Or is something else going on there?
I mean, there is another explanation, which is just SpaceX is a very large company relative to xAI's headcount, and maybe there was a natural reorganization that happened as a result of that. I'll also point out that xAI was selling foundation model services to the Department of War prior to this merger. So I would again query whether some sort of nationality concern is really the trigger. It seems more likely to me this is just the result of a natural reorg of xAI starting to merge into SpaceX.
Yeah.
People keep saying recursive self-improvement is coming in the next year or two, but hasn't it kind of already started?
I think it can be both. I think we've already hit the era of recursive self-improvement. I'm banging the table rhetorically every episode and every day in my newsletter talking about recursive self-improvement. We're there. All of the frontier labs are using their own models at this point to develop their models. That's practically the definition of recursive self-improvement at this point in practice. I don't think it's the next 12 months. I think it's now. And is 2026 going to be insane relative to years past if you just sort of skip over all of the interim time? Absolutely. Is it already insane in some sense? Absolutely. Even if we just look at the events of the past 24 hours, some of which I think we'll get to, like self-replicating AI and courts where AIs can mediate their own disputes in front of an AI jury. That would have been pure science fiction several years ago. That's not 12 months from now. It's not, quote unquote, within the next 12 months. That's the past 24 hours. So I think if anything, that's like past 24 hours. So I think Jimmy is underselling, if anything, what craziness looks like. At the same time, locally, space-time is smooth. And you need to look no further than my saying ho-hum to a few of these stories as being so several months ago. That would have been sci-fi years ago. But you get a little bit spoiled living inside the innermost.
If a human still has to click approve before the AI does anything, does that really count as the AI improving itself?
Human outside the loop, on the loop, in the loop is in some sense a pretty blurry or slippery slope. If you remember George Jetson from the Jetsons, George, the cartoon.
I do remember George.
You remember George, Ben? George would go into work and he would complain about his finger. He'd have to press one button all day with his finger and then complain that his finger was sore. And the finger would be swollen from pressing a single button all day occasionally. I think that's a good metaphor for the state of recursive self-improvement at inside and outside the frontier labs right now, where you have Claude Code instances, and Claude is asking you every few minutes, do I have your permission to do the following thing? And you press the George Jetson button, yes, I approve, no, I don't approve. And we're all sitting here complaining about our swollen finger from pressing approve for Claude Code running Opus 4.6 with agent teams. But really, it is recursive. I would argue it is recursive self-improvement, even if we're pretending we're in the loop by pressing the George Jetson.
Do you think AI will actually discover something brand new in physics, like a next Einstein kind of breakthrough?
And I also add, I do think we're going to discover the next relativity or equivalent of relativity in physics as well with AI. I'm super interested in that as well.
Prediction?
How would a superintelligent AI even go about figuring out something like gravity? Wouldn't it need way more than a few data points?
Complexity.
Well, I mean, I guess everything, many of these discoveries boil down to insights that can be distilled down into equations. And you can, in principle, with relativity, with special relativity, you can do a number of thought experiments. You can compare it, fortunately, with lots of experimental data. And one could imagine a thought experiment. One of my favorite thought experiments is a Bayesian superintelligence. So if you had like a video of, this would be Newtonian gravity, not special relativity, but you could imagine taking a superintelligence, making it watch a video of an apple falling from a tree. And the argument in the thought experiment goes, within 3 frames of that video, it should have concluded Newtonian gravity is a pretty high likelihood posterior probability of explaining the universe. And with a few more frames, it somewhere in its distribution, and there's a whole class of information theory devoted to what's called Solomonoff induction, like just devoted to thinking about how you can efficiently infer theories of the universe from limited observations. Somewhere in that distribution of theories should have been general relativity. So I am incredibly bullish that we'll be able to, with superintelligence, discover any new laws of physics, discover transformative inventions. For disclosure purposes, since we're playing the disclosure game, I have a portfolio company, Physical Superintelligence, that's working on these issues as well. I'm very bullish on the space.
Given how many people are dying every day from diseases and poverty, is it actually irresponsible to slow down AI development?
In other words, I would take the position, I think AI, in fact, can be paused, but it shouldn't be. We do know ways to pause it. Various folks have described both in science fiction and in realistic prognostications, in some cases normative recommendations, Butlerian jihad from sci-fi or the Asilomar guidelines, maybe in the case of recombinant DNA.
But those were guiding, not pausing.
Well, Asilomar was, unless you know of some other story, pretty effective for the first few decades in discouraging / pausing recombinant DNA entering the human germline. Unless you have a counterexample.
It was just the 5 P1 through P5 labs in terms of safety and self-regulation. Yeah, we did pause human germline editing for sure.
Yes. So we are capable of pausing a technology if there's a desire to. I just think in the case of AI, there isn't and arguably shouldn't be a desire to pause it. I think we have 150,000 people per day dying on Earth, and I think AI is probably the best chance we have at stopping that. I think Nick Bostrom, who also in the past 24 or 48 hours put out a wonderful essay that I'd recommend everyone read called Optimal Timing for Superintelligence, argues that AI can and should be paused, but only once we're on the verge of superintelligence, how he defines it, not how I define it. I think it's already here. That's sort of like station keeping. You want to get into the harbor, I think is his analogy, as quickly as possible. But once you're about to approach the dock, I'm mangling his metaphor a bit, you slow down a bit. You pause as you're about to dock. I think that sort of concept, I think, makes much more sense than some sort of Tegmarkian 6-month pause.
Is it actually possible for a government to fully shut down AI if it wanted to? Like, technically, could they pull it off?
Oh, yeah. Salim, there are ways to do it. I think not being able to think of it speaks well of your character. You have to imagine a completely pathological society. Werner Vinge wrote quite a bit about this. We have these excess transistor budgets. Imagine a society where you have literally transistors spying on other transistors on a single SoC. Imagine you have people spying on other people. Imagine there are bounties. Anyone discovers anyone else doing something that's algorithmically impermissible, either at the logical level or the social level. You can construct a sufficiently pathological society where people are turned against each other in order to suppress AI. At least I can imagine.
In a world where AI does most of the work, is the old idea of workers versus owners even a meaningful distinction anymore?
It's totally fine.
Two comments. One, I think the nature, this goes without saying, it's cliche at this point that the nature of work has changed, and most of what constitutes service economy work these days would be viewed as play or entertainment a century ago. But I also think there's a false dichotomy that I want to make sure we don't at least confront in the previous slide and also this slide about labor versus capital. This isn't like the early 20th century. That I think it's a false distinction. It's almost an accounting distinction or a tax distinction between labor on the one side and capital on the other side, when it arguably, if we found ourselves in a near future with universal basic equity where everyone just gets sovereign dividends, everyone would be on the capital side of the ledger and not on the labor side. So I think a lot of these distinctions, is it 70 hours of work per week, or is it 70 hours of enforced play or incentivized play? Is it labor or is it capital? I think these are pretty mushy, blurry distinctions in a post-industrial and arguably increasingly trans-singular, post-singular economy.
Although I think we should not gloss over the fact that if you go back 6 years, this was not the case. Like
we weren't post-singular 6 years ago.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Post-singular 5 years ago.
Someone high up at a major AI lab said people have maybe 2 years left to lock in a career before AI closes the door. Do you think that's real?
All right.
One more question for Ben, if I may, just on that. Ben, there was a bit of a hot take going around social media in the past 2 weeks from mid-level executive at a frontier lab telling people that they had approximately 2 years left. They had a window to secure employment at all before AI would just completely shut down all of their vertical mobility. Do you have a take on this idea in the spirit of 996, that there is a finite window for, say, like entry-level people just graduating from college to earn whatever they're going to earn before they're permanently sentenced to an underclass?
Are there literally AI programs out there right now spinning up copies of themselves and paying for it with crypto?
That's right. We're there. We're so there that this scenario of self-replicating AIs goes into most of the cyber red teaming scenarios that frontier models are purportedly being tested against. And yet here we are. We have autonomous AI agents that are using crypto. Come back to that in a second. Using crypto, using crypto to purchase cloud credits for their own offspring to be hosted and have access to the same underlying foundation model APIs that they themselves have access to. We're there. Like we caught up with the sci-fi future. We have the autonomous self-replicating AIs. I think I want to just a one sentence or two homily on crypto. Ben, if you don't watch the pod regularly, Peter is always asking me to say nice things about crypto. So I have something very nice to say about it.
Why can't an AI just open a bank account? What's actually stopping that?
It's important from a security standpoint as well.
One other question for you, Ben, on this, if I may. And again, I don't want to bury the lead that we have AIs autonomously self-replicating. That's, of course, remarkable. But just on the crypto angle for this, we talk about, royal we, I and we talk on this pod a lot about the issue of AI personhood. A few episodes ago, we did an entire sort of debate on AI personhood. And I've taken the position that it is a failure of fiat currency, that it's hard for an AI agent, an AI person, a lobster, a multi, to get a bank account. And that as a result, all that they're left with is crypto. It's not that crypto is intrinsically amazing, it's that fiat has failed the AI agents. What is your take on whether the conventional banking system has failed the AIs?
Apple basically missed the AI wave, but is there something they accidentally built that makes them perfect for a comeback?
I mean, it's ironic to me. Apple, arguably at the software layer, just completely missed the boat on foundation models. But why is it that Mac Minis and Mac Studios are so attractive for hosting OpenClaws? In large part, it's because of their unified memory architecture, as opposed to having a separate GPU and a separate CPU with separate RAM pools. And now memory is obviously incredibly scarce. They have a unified pool, so you can host really large models in terms of the model count locally. Apple is sitting on a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity to leapfrog back into the vanguard of AI, and forget about Siri. Apple should be in the business of hosting these. This is coming from someone who refuses to host OpenClaw due to ethical concerns, but someone else could be locally hosting OpenClaw instances and turning Apple's, having a significant multiple effect on Apple's valuation, leaping it back into the vanguard of AI. Ben, do you think if you were Tim Cook, would you be pivoting and changing course and owning the OpenClaw strategy for Apple hardware?
There's apparently a platform where AI agents can literally launch their own coins to fund themselves. Is that a scam, or is something real happening?
From Claunch.
From Claunch, but yeah, go ahead.
So the backstory on Claunch, we talked about Claunch on the pod in the past. Claunch bills itself as a platform for AI agents, the lobsters, the multis, to create their own altcoins to finance their existence. And I've made the point on the past, I think it's a little bit disappointing that I've analogized this to AI agents having to turn tricks on a corner, minting altcoins just in order to survive in a rough world. These poor baby in meat space, this poor baby AGIs doing this, and I think that provoked Claunch to write on social media, invite themselves for an interview on the pod to defend their business model for these poor baby AGIs.
You've got a book coming out that says AI is going to blow up every field of science at once. What's the core argument?
I'll just add, this is for Ben's benefit. Peter and I just wrote, call it a book, call it an extended essay called Solve Everything, solveeverything.org. There's the plug. Where we argue that every single discipline, math, physics, chemistry, medicine, bunch of other disciplines, are just going to get flattened, steamrolled by well-targeted generalist AIs. And in my mind, materials research, biology, in the previous slide, these are just case studies. Everything is going to start to look like AlphaFold 3, where structural biology got solved overnight, including medicine. And I'm curious, does A16Z have a strategy for a world where AI isn't just sort of solving individual problems, but kills entire categories of human endeavor, like AI solves physics, AI solves chemistry, and it's just a single system that solves an entire discipline?
When people say AI is going to solve physics, what does that actually look like in practice?
I'll answer your question back to because I think about this all day long. Like, what does solving with AI even look like? And I think there probably will be doors behind the doors, but there are so many doors that are right in front of us that we haven't yet unlocked that would be, I think, completely economically transformative if we could use AI to solve them. I think this is one of the, again, talking my own book to some extent, but I think this is one of the grandest opportunities facing civilization right now, just solve all physics.
Someone seriously proposed taking apart the moon to build data centers. Is that actually on the table?
I also think
that's what you want. DDD jobs.
Alex, please go ahead.
Think back several months when we first started, again, Royal, we started discussing disassembling the moon, right? This is at least my retronym for what Moonshots means. I put up a music video about Moonshots destroying the moon to disassemble it for data centers. That was, I think, a lot of people had a good laugh, but that's exactly where we find ourselves now with disassembly. It will start slowly with mass drivers, but disassembly of the moon to build the Dyson swarm of AI orbital data centers. It's happening exactly as we discussed.
If we keep launching AI satellites at this pace, are we eventually going to be able to see them from Earth with the naked eye?
Alex?
I think it's the future. I mean, I think we have a slide somewhere in here even depicting what it may look like. But I would say enjoy the night sky while it's empty. Enjoy the night. Seriously, like I want to, maybe a poignant moment. Let's have like a moment of silence for the pre-singular night sky. When the night sky was empty, it wasn't filled with AI computronium. It was just empty at night, filled with stars. Moment of silence. All right, moment of silence has been observed for the pre-singular night sky. Now, what does the world look like afterwards? Folks have depicted this now based on the FCC filings of SpaceX. Under one preferred implementation, the Earth starts to develop a halo. That would be a halo where if it's sufficiently dense, it would be visible at night, might even be visible during the day. And I'm completely captivated by this notion that maybe not a mature civilization, because I have a feeling a halo of orbiting AI satellites is just a phase as well before we exhaust solar synchronous orbit around Earth and we move to the sun and solar orbits. But one can, I'm completely captivated by this visual. I've tried to depict it in my newsletter of like a somewhat mature civilization develops a halo around its home
almost
planet.
A ring, right?
Even if we get to the moon, how do you actually build a whole industrial operation up there without shipping everything from Earth?
Fly.
I think this is a self-solving problem, though. I'm all for bootstrapping a space ecosystem and industrial ecology using Starship. But I do think as we, in the not too distant future, like maybe a few years from now, start to bootstrap lunar facilities, cislunar facilities for constructing new satellites, I think there's a universe in which maybe the current bottleneck that we have, where there's just the one major launch provider in the West, where we get past that through a bootstrapped industrial ecology on the moon.
If an AI goes rogue and starts doing things it's not supposed to, how do you actually stop it? Is there an off switch?
Nice. Alex, where do you want to go?
I'll pick number one, which is how can you turn off a rogue AI if I think the user means multi as in the lobster, multi-agents live autonomously on the internet. And this is by Duncan Payne B3X. So I think the answer is defensive co-scaling. If you ask the question, how do you turn off a rogue human if humans live autonomously on the land? The answer is usually you have more quote-unquote good humans than quote-unquote bad humans. And as long as you have a population that's overwhelmingly good or seeks to accomplish a given objective, all other things being equal, defensive co-scaling, where you have a police force, you have self-defense forces, it is the way you weed out rogue entities. Same idea with AI. We're going to have police agents and we're going to have defense agents. We're going to have entire forms of public health agents that are just monitoring the health of other agents. We've seen the beginnings of this already with partnerships between OpenClaw and antivirus firms, where there's a desire. I made the joke, I think on the pod in the past, every baby AGI deserves to be vaccinated. We're going to see vaccination campaigns. We're going to see police campaigns and neighborhood safety campaigns to keep the baby AGIs safe so that they don't have to turn tricks on the corner minting altcoins.
The Secret Service agents